What's going on, man? Welcome back to the basement. I'm Ron, and today we're going to talk through my must buy and sell trade targets for week 5 of the fantasy football season. We've been splitting these up recently, doing a buy video and a sell video, but today we're just going to combine the two so I'm not repeating myself and hitting a quota of 5 buys or 5 sells. Today we have about 8 or so players, some sell highs, some buy lows, some buy highs, some sell lows, everything in between for all shapes and sizes, whether you're 0-4 or you're 4-0 or you're 2-2. Whatever situation you're in, I got a trade target for you. Regardless, if you enjoy, make sure you go down below, subscribe, leave a like. Let's go.
Like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm frozen. She gon' let me.
Now, first up, we're actually going to start with the sells here. What we've been doing recently is I'll show you guys a player that I'm buying or selling, and then we'll look at the trade database and find some trades. So what we're going to do here is we're going to start with the sells, and then when we get to the buys, we'll show reasonable trades that happen, and I'll throw in like, oh, okay, this player had as a sell, I would sell for this buy candidate. It'll all make sense. Just trust me. First up, our sell candidates is honestly just the Chicago Bears, and it sucks because I liked drafting the Chicago Bears this year. We have a lot of Caleb Williams, DJ Moore, Roman Dunze. It's just in a place right now. I will say, by the way, shout out the QB school. I can't get enough of his videos. They are great. For a guy like me, I'm not going to be able to watch the film and tell you what's going on, but JT O'Sullivan, former NFL quarterback, he has the QB school where he breaks down QB film every single week. And the Caleb Williams breakdowns have been appointment television because it's just very frustrating to watch. I'll say on one hand, dude, like DJ Moore is just very checked out right now. And that's not even part of the reason why he's a sell. There's just a lot of routes. I don't know if he's hurt. I don't know if he's just like upset that they traded away Justin Fields, but he's like dogging it on some routes. He had a touchdown where if he ran full speed, Caleb Williams would have hit him, and he just kind of assumed he wasn't getting the ball in this play and didn't run full speed, and it's just been a mess to watch. You have these routes where it's like 3rd and long, and it's literally just like 3 hitches. Like that is the play design. It's 3 hitches and a drag, and the hitches don't even line up with Caleb Williams getting to the back of his drop and the hitches being open. And I think that this illustrates it really well of what we've gotten with Shane Waldron. And like I do want to apologize for ever believing in Shane Waldron. He had some decent offenses in Seattle, but it almost, I think now thinking back on it, they were almost successful in spite of him. I think that they were honestly successful in Seattle because of Metcalf, Tyler Lockett in his prime, Geno Smith's resurgence recently. Before that, like 1 year of Russell Wilson. It's just I don't know how to justify any of this. This is DJ Moore before Shane Waldron. This is a tweet from Warren Sharp here where he looked at the route charts and combinations from last season and then compared it to this season with DJ Moore. It is all vertical hitch routes. He did have like a stick and nod touchdown, but still there wasn't a ton of nuance there. With DJ Moore, he's not a traditional receiver where he's just going to like run a hitch and get a lot of separation. You want him on crossers and you want him able to run away from guys. Like that's DJ Moore's archetype, and Waldron just could not care less, right? Like you see in the before chart, it's a lot of drags and crossers and outs, and you want to let him run horizontally at the, after he breaks in his route. It's just not what you're getting. So if I could sell high on this like 6 target, 22 yards, 1 touchdown game, I know it's not anything crazy, but if DJ Moore is selling at like a top 24 price tag, I would be selling at that point. And then I'll also add DeAndre Swift, of course, who was coming off his best game of the year where he was an absolute monster, and he puts up I want to say that he might have had the highest score on the week for running backs, or no, definitely was behind Derrick Henry. I'm fact-checking that now. In terms of Week 4 scores, yeah, DeAndre Swift was a top 3 running back. He had 29.5 PPR points this week. I still have him like in the RB 30s. I imagine you won't be able to get a ton for him, but if I could just sell high here, I would. When we look at his advanced stats next to Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson, he was the worst running back through 3 weeks, and he still doesn't look all that great, right? In terms of yards per carry, he's at 3 yards per carry. Of course, Khalil Herbert's less than that, but Khalil Herbert's been getting nothing but goal line and short yardage carries, so his expected yards aren't that crazy. He's last in this backfield in rush expected points added, which is just EPA. On a per-play basis, how much are you helping your team score points in advanced drives? He is hurting them. Yards to contact per attempt, lowest. What else does he have? Rushing yards over expected per attempt, lowest, minus 58 rushing yards over expected, really bad. No, of course he has 16 runs of 15 plus miles per hour. That's just because he's getting used between the 20s and having space to run, whereas Herbert and Roschon right now are more of your short yardage, third and short goal line type of backs. I really like both Khalil Herbert and Roschon Johnson. Roschon Johnson is kind of like Zach Charbonnet, Samaje Perine type guy where he's, huge, right? Like he's like 220 pounds, catches passes, can be a goal line back. If he can overtake DeAndre Swift, that's a great player. And then Khalil Herbert has just always been efficient. So again, if I could just sell high on anything, and then on top of that, you look at just this offense in general as well. The Rams are a smash spot. Their defense is brutal, especially in the passing game. It was supposed to be a fireworks situation for this Bears passing offense, and they passed for under 200 yards. The offensive line is brutal. I've lost most of my optimism here with these Bears. And then I'll also list Michael Pittman here. Michael Pittman, of course, like this is also another very cliche sell high. I'm not telling you, like, if you can't get anything good, then don't sell him. But if you can sell on the optimism, I absolutely would. Like, I'm looking at my rest of season rankings here, which, by the way, are on Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. I have Michael Pittman as my wide receiver 42 rest of season. So even if you can sell him at like a wide receiver 3 price tag, I would. He has just been absolutely brutal with Anthony Richardson at quarterback. Of course, Joe Flacco comes in this week. He gives you 17.3 PPR points. He gives you six catches, 9 targets, 113 yards. And that just wasn't happening with Richardson. You'll get these sporadically, but Richardson as a passer just isn't there right now. And where Pittman operates in the, first down marker area of like a 10-yardish ADOT, it's just not where Richardson's looking. A lot of times he's going to scramble there, and if not, he's trying these like he has games, right? The week 1 game with like 9 completions. The Alec Pierce, he had like 2 bombs to Alec Pierce. It just doesn't set up well for Pittman. He's going to have his games here and there, but if there's any optimism here, I would sell. Flacco, of course, is in the mix, but Richardson's injury isn't all that serious. It could just be like a 1-week absence at most here. So I would be selling Pittman if there was any optimism. Now, let's get to our buys here. And first up, we have Breece Hall. This one I don't want to spend too much time on because it's not anything too crazy, but very simply, he is, to me, today, would still be a first-round pick. I still have him as my RB2 rest of season. You look here at Best Ball Resurrection. Shout out to Underdog Fantasy. They have a contest right now, Best Ball Resurrection, where it is a contest from week 6 through 17. He is still the RB2 in this contest. He is 6th overall in terms of ADP. He is getting drafted there. There is real money on the line. It's probably one of the better ways to see just rest of season rankings in general, where the market is leaning on all these players. And Breece Hall is still there. So if there's pessimism over this downpour of a game at MetLife where there was no points scored and Braylon Allen looked better than Breece Hall, and there's pessimism and panic on Breece Hall, I would be buying. Now, I will say, make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy. We're going to be doing one of these Best Ball Resurrection drafts tomorrow. Our Friday night stream should be around 7 p.m. Eastern. We'll be getting into one of these. And then they also have it Boost-tober is what they're calling it, over in the Pick'em lobby where you can go higher or lower on their projections for literally any sport. They're giving out free picks. They're giving out boosts across the board, literally promos and boosts every single day of October. Make sure you check it out. Make sure you use promo code RON. When you sign up for Underdog, they'll match your first deposit up to $1,000. I have links in the description and the comment section down below for all of that good stuff. Now, in terms of Breece Hall, you can see as well, expected points per game based on his volume, his carries, his red zone opportunities, 19.1 expected points per game, just 0.5 behind Saquon, but you can see he's underperforming by minus 2.4. Now, of course, to this point, Breece Hall has been bad, but that's just a 4-week sample. Over an entire season, the pendulum swings back and forth. I actually looked at his stats from last year. He was like a 12-point-per-game guy from weeks 9 through 13, and then weeks 14 to 18, he was at like 25 points per game. Breece Hall can sometimes get streaky, can sometimes fall into a slump. I do think that better days are ahead. We've seen through his first 2 years, even in a brutal Jets offense. Right now, they're more league average than, bottom 3 like they've been through 2 years in Breece Hall's career, and even then he found a way to stay efficient and overachieve on his expected points per game. I think that we will get back to that. And then we have, of course, he played against Broncos last week. They were allowing the 22nd most points to running backs, 7th best in rush EPA defense, but I know that a lot of people are concerned about Braylon Allen being the goal line back now. This is a tweet from a Jets beat reporter. Robert Saleh said that Breece Hall was batting 1,000 in goal line situations before the Broncos game, and that he views that performance as an outlier. Hall will still have a role in short yardage situations. So I think that we'll still see Breece Hall getting goal line looks. I think to me it's going to look kind of like, I don't know, Braylon Allen's going to mix in, but I don't think it's going to be anywhere near a 50-50 split or something that's going to be very detrimental to Breece Hall. There's going to be enough running back points in this offense to go around because you're going to see a lot of targets go to Breece Hall. You're going to see this team lean on the running game in general. And I think we could see the rushing efficiency for Breece Hall bounce back here very soon. Now, in terms of what is getting traded for with Breece Hall, I do want to see, because I have to imagine this is something that you could buy low on in fantasy football. Let's see. This is fantasycalc.com, by the way, /database. I'll put a link down below. Here's what Breece Hall is getting traded for in redraft. And I'm just very curious if people are panicking at this point. Would I do Achane and Zay Flowers for Breece Hall? I probably would. I would sell, if I could get Derrick Henry, if I could sell Derrick Henry for Breece Hall into plus, I absolutely would. Josh Jacobs in a plus, I would as well. Garrett Wilson and Rico Dowdle, I mean, yes, of course. Anything else stick out? Amon-Ra St. Brown for Breece in a piece. I think that that's fine, but I'm not crazy about it. Yeah, I mean, if I could sell Jonathan Taylor and Leggett for him, I would. Marvin, Bucky Irving, that's close, but I would as well. Dobbins and McLaurin. Yeah, and Dobbins is actually a buy candidate on this video. So it seems people are panicking. I mean, Kenneth Walker, I love Kenneth Walker, but if you can sell Kenneth Walker for Breece Hall, I would. Even if you, I don't know, you could somehow get a piece on top, go for it. But yeah, that sounds about right in terms of Breece. People are panicking. People are panic selling on Breece Hall. If you could take advantage of that in your league, I absolutely would. Now, our next buy candidate here is Tee Higgins. I think that we've mentioned him before, but I actually have Tee Higgins in terms of my rest of season rankings. I have him at wide receiver 23. So that's like much higher than, I think trade value charts and just kind of rest of season rankings in general might have him more in the wide receiver 30s. I'm very high on Tee Higgins, and it's very simple here. The volume is there. Expected points per game, again, based on his targets, his volume, his ADOT, his red zone usage. He should be the wide receiver 17 in this area with Jefferson, Marvin Harrison, Mike Evans, and Stephon Diggs. Sadly, he is underperforming his 14.3 expected points per game by minus 4.9. Now, when wide receivers underperform their volume, it is for two reasons. It can be player related or it can be offensive related, right? Where Sutton is like the wide receiver 5 in expected points per game, but there's just not going to be enough yards and touchdowns from Bo Nix for him to make good on that volume. But with Tee Higgins, we know this is a good player, right, where he has had a top 12 point per game season before, and this is a good offense as well, where this has actually been one of the best offenses in the NFL through 4 weeks. They are 4th in EPA per play. They are also 4th in success rate. EPA per play, again, is just getting drives over expected, getting points over expected, pretty much like per play, how much are you helping your offense score points? It's just an offensive efficiency metric, and then success rate is more like steady, like how much are you converting drives and getting first downs? Again, top 5 in both metrics. It is a really good offense right now. Joe Burrow is humming, and it's only going to be a matter of time until you get Tee Higgins to pay off. And then the perfect marriage as well is that the Bengals are top 5 in terms of offensive EPA per play. They are the 6th worst defense in EPA per play. So this is going to lend itself to a lot of shootouts. Their defense can't stop anybody. So it's absolutely perfect. Again, for me, Tee Higgins is a top 24 guy rest of season. I think you could probably get him for relatively cheap. Let's see. In terms of what Tee Higgins is going for on the market, I can't imagine it's too much. I do wonder. I think the market probably prefers DJ Moore over Tee Higgins, and I would disagree there. Juwan Jennings and George Pickens for Tee Higgins. I probably wouldn't want to give a plus on top of Pickens for Higgins. Let's see. Does anything else stick out? I mean, that's just junk. If you could somehow turn Waddle into Higgins, I would. If I could turn Khalil Shakir, even if to add like a small piece to Khalil Shakir, I would as well. I would take Tee Higgins straight up over Cooper Kupp, so if I could somehow get a plus on top, I absolutely would. Let's see. Devontae for Tee Higgins. Nah, I can't do that. I mean, of course, I would take Higgins over Ford. I don't think that that's all that realistic. McLaurin for T. I like McLaurin. I think I have McLaurin ranked one spot ahead of him. I have him ranked back-to-back. So if I could sell McLaurin for Tee Higgins in a piece, I would, but I'm not that crazy about it. I do want to see, is there anything with like just DJ Moore on the other side? Because I am curious. This is from October 2nd. Wow. I mean, this is actually saying that it's pretty even here. But, I mean, DJ Moore for Tee Higgins and Jake Ferguson, I mean, that's amazing. I would do that all day long. If I could sell DJ Moore for Tee Higgins in a piece, I absolutely would. Now, moving on to our next buy candidate here is actually going to be a buy high, right? Like I told you guys, some are buy highs, some are buy lows, some are sell highs, some are sell lows. Our buy high for this week's video is Jake Ferguson. And the reason I have him as a buy high is because if you ask somebody like who their tight end 1 overall is, or even their top 3 tight ends rest of season, they wouldn't put Jake Ferguson in that conversation. I think that you're going to have a situation where somebody in your league might have Ferguson, and they just don't really know what they have on their hands right now. Jake Ferguson is firmly in the mix for the tight end 1 overall, and if you wanted to say, yeah, in my rest of season rankings, Ferguson's the tight end 1 overall for me, I wouldn't bat an eye. He has been that good. This is from Mike Leone here. It's an ugly year at tight end, and in an ugly year, I think getting the tight end 1 overall isn't a bad idea, especially if you can get him for cheap. In terms of expected points per game, he is the number 1 tight end in fantasy. He's been the tight end 3 since returning from his injury, and he's essentially Dak Prescott's wide receiver 2. He's also tied with Brock Bowers for the second most targets among tight ends, despite missing a game this year with an injury. So he's getting the volume. He's attached to Dak Prescott. He's the second best option in that offense. Brandon Cooks just got hurt with like a knee infection or something weird. Jake Ferguson is a really, really strong tight end bet without the name value of like Travis Kelce and Trey McBride and a lot of these top guys. So if you could buy low, or not buy low, but like buy high, but buy low on the name brand of Ferguson, I absolutely would, especially if he's on the team out there. There's some teams out there that drafted like 2 tight ends. Maybe there's a Ferguson team that also has Bowers, and they didn't really think, they just want to see if one of them would hit, and now 2 of them hit, and you can go out there and try and trade for one of them. So when we look at what Jake Ferguson's getting traded for, I want to say it can't be anything too crazy. I want to say, or actually, all right, he's going for a little bit. I mean, yeah, these are crazy. Like Wicks for Ferg, yes. Sutton for Ferg, yes. London for Ferg, I can't get there. Andrews and Fields, yes. I would add, like, if you want to do Andrews in a piece, like Andrews and DeAndre Swift for Jake Ferguson, yes, please. Mark Andrews and Michael Pittman for Jake Ferguson. Kyle Pitts and Michael Pittman for Jake Ferguson. I would do all of those type of deals. Let's find one more. Yeah, I mean, you're not going to get this. Maybe you do like DJ Moore and Mark Andrews for Tee Higgins and Jake Ferguson. I would be all over that kind of deal. Nothing else really sticks out. I mean, I would love the idea of like Mark Andrews in a piece to get Ferguson, or Kyle Pitts in a piece to get Jake Ferguson, because I don't think it's going to cost that much to upgrade from those guys. Now, our 4th buy candidate here is actually a more traditional buy low, and this one is like if you're 3-1, 4-0, you're sitting pretty, but you need running back help. I actually like buying JK Dobbins. I know that he was a popular sell high after the first 2 weeks. He is somebody that averaged 20-plus points per game through the first 2 weeks and then cooled off a bit. But you have to remember, he played versus Pittsburgh and then KC. These are 2 defenses that are first and second in least fantasy points allowed to the running back position. Just brutal matchups, but the usage has been better. He just had a season-high 71% snap share before the bye week. So he goes on bye this week. So if you buy him, it's not to put him in your lineup. But maybe the Dobbins owner is like 0-4 or 1-3 and they're down bad and they need a win this week. You could go tap him on the shoulder, buy JK Dobbins for cheap, give him someone that can produce now, and you have a nice running back too moving forward in JK Dobbins. I think anyone out there telling you that they know that he's going to like slow down because of his injury or whatever, nobody knows what's going to happen with JK Dobbins. We know at this point he's been good through 4 weeks. He's looked explosive. He's looked good. He gets a bye week to kind of rest a little bit here. And I think the bigger story about the bye week is that Joe Alt and Rashawn Slater, the 2, really good tackles for the Chargers, didn't play this week versus the Chiefs. They now get a bye week to get healthier, and this offense should bounce back moving on from here. So I think that if you want to buy low and you need some running back help, I think that Dobbins makes a lot of sense. On a bye week, after 2 down games, he should be pretty cheap in fantasy football. Here is what he's going for right now. I did not mean to do that. Let's see. Can we get him for cheap anywhere? Yeah, I mean, like Kyle Pitts for Dobbins. If I had like somebody like Tucker Kraft or Komet or Hunter Henry or like Tyler Conklin, I would be fine with that. Does anything else stick out? You get him for cheap. I mean, like, there's no way, but like Allen Lazard, if you could do Allen Lazard in like a very small piece, I would. I mean, that's insane. I mean, if I could do Chuba Hubbard for Dobbins in a piece, I would. If I could do Chuba Hubbard for Dobbins straight up, I would. Chuba Hubbard's been fun. He's been producing, but it feels like there is a limited ceiling on what he can be given Jonathan Brooks returning very soon here. I mean, this is insane. I mean, Trey Sermon for JK Dobbins. Like, I'm saying, like, you should be able to buy pretty low here. Even though some of these seem like sort of buying high. I mean, Hawkinson for Dobbins, of course. Hubbard for Dobbins, yes. Rachaad White for Dobbins, yes. So I think you guys get the point. And then our last buy here is going to be, this is disclaimer. I think some of you guys aren't going to like this at all. This is really only if you are 4-0 or better, or not or better. Like, I would say 3-1 or better. 3-1 or 4-0. If you can deal with the lows to get you into the highs, I'm going to recommend one more time buying the Miami playmakers, in specific Achane and Tyreek Hill. Achane was on a 20-plus point per game pace until Tua went down. And here's the thing. They are in the Best Ball Resurrection lobby, both still second-round picks. This is a tournament that takes place from week 6 on. So from week 6 on, they are both seen still as second-round options in Best Ball leagues. And we look at their schedule right now. We have the bye week during Tua's IR stint, which is nice because now when Tua comes back, you get the entire season of runway. There's no bye week. There's no anything. It's just Tua and these playmakers. And I think we get too cute with thinking, oh, well, Tua's going to come back to a 1-5 team and they'll just shut him down. Very rarely do we see that. Mike McDaniel's like coaching for his job right now. Like no playoff wins in his 3 years there. Hasn't really outperformed what Brian Flores did. Like, he needs to play well, coach well. Like, he does not have the leash to just say, you know what, it's a lost season. We'll just let Tua do nothing the rest of the year. It also seems like Tua wants to play. Tua, as of right now, let's see if I can find the quote. But as of right now, he's on track to be back. I want to say it was week 8 is what it was. I'm trying to find the tweet right now. I think this should be it. Nope, that is not it. But yeah, he is supposed to be back very soon. Hold on. Is this it? There we go. Yeah, so Adam Beasley reports that Tua is symptom-free and appears to be back on track to return to the field as soon as week 8. It seems like him going on IR was almost a save face. He wants to play. Like, there's no even conversation of him wanting to retire. Like, he's going to be back in week 8. And like I said, McDaniel is coaching for his job. They could be, 1-6 by the time that Tua comes back. I think that he would still play, and I think that they honestly have a chance to win a game versus New England or the Colts. Those are two bad teams, and they have a bye week. So you get 2 down games here. You're going to have to take on the bye anyways, but then from weeks 8 on, they should both be just fine. Like, right now, rest of season, I have these guys ranked. I have Tyreek as my wide receiver 8 rest of season, and I have Achane running back 9 rest of season. We know what these guys can do when Tua's the quarterback, and from weeks 8 on, that's really, you know what I mean? Like, weeks 8 through 17 is the rest of the fantasy football season. That's really not that bad. So if I could buy low, if anybody's really panicking, I know that they had a primetime game where they all looked really bad versus the Titans. I'm buying low on these Dolphins if I can. Again, if there's an owner out there that's really down bad and has to get these Dolphins off their roster, you should be able to buy relatively low. Now, like look at this. Like, with Tyreek Hill, Dak and Juwan Jennings, yes, please. We have Tee Higgins as a buy, but Tee Higgins and Najee Harris for Tyreek, yes, please. What else sticks out? Olave for Tyreek Hill, that one's actually really close. McCaffrey for Tyreek Hill, I would do that in a heartbeat. Pickens for Tyreek Hill in a heartbeat. Kupp for Tyreek Hill in a heartbeat. Drake London for Tyreek Hill is really close. That's like about the highest I would pay. And that would only be in a spot where I had a really good team. Devontae Adams for Tyreek Hill, I would do that very easily. Like I'm saying, you should be able to buy him relatively cheap. And again, I have him as my wide receiver 8 rest of season just because we know who Tyreek is when Tua is in there. And getting like a 20-plus point per game producer from weeks 8 on, to me, is more valuable than these wide receiver 2s like Devontae Adams, like Drake London. And then, of course, Devon Achane should be cheap as well. Let's see what he's going for in the trade database. I mean, these are ridiculous. I mean, like, I would do Jacobs for Achane, Kareem Hunt for Achane, of course, but I don't think that that's all that reasonable. Mark Andrews and Brian Robinson, yes, please. I mean, Zach Moss and a piece for Achane, yes, please. And we'll find one more here. Ayuk and Zach Moss is close. That's probably the most I would spend. Let's see if there's another very easy one for me with Achane. I mean, this one's crazy. Bucky Irving and Xavier Worthy. I mean, yes. CJ Stroud for Achane, yes. ETN for Achane, yes. So again, you should be able to buy him for cheap. If you're 2-2 or 1-3, do not buy a Dolphin. But if you are out there, you're 4-0, you're sitting pretty. Maybe it's a 2 wide receiver, 1 flex, like short lineup league, and your team's going to be stacked regardless for the next 3 weeks. Go out there, buy Achane, buy Tyreek. To a lesser extent, Waddle as well. Just get in there, buy low, because I really do think from week 8 on, they will be contributors. I think we kind of forget how, like, a 4-week sample size is actually pretty big, but also on the entirety of the season, it's pretty small. If we look back to last year, and we kind of compare and contrast, like I think Raheem Mostert was like the RB1 through 4 weeks last year, or the RB2. Of course, he still had a strong season, but things do change. Things do, swing back and forth. I think the Dolphins could be one of these teams where they might even help teams win in the playoffs and beat guys that you need later on in the season. So to me, they're worth kicking the tires on. But regardless, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, subscribe. Again, the rest of season rankings are over on the Patreon, patreon.com/Ron Stewart. So if you want to see how I feel about these players moving forward, you can do that there. And then also make sure you check out Underdog Fantasy for the Boosttober promo that's going on right now. The links to both of those will be in the description and the comment section down below. As always, appreciate you guys watching, and I'll see y'all I will say as well, I'm going to do a Dynasty Rankings update for the Patreon on Friday. I don't know if we're going to have a 10 starts and stats video because of that. So we shall see. Regardless, I will see y'all in the next one.
Stones, like this froze, ice cold, ice around my body like I'm